the more organized and structured I am on the back end, the more I'm able to serve my clients well and work with the different categories of vendors that I work with in a way that works well for them, because I don't want to have to wake up every day and think, what do I need to do? I don't want to spend more brain power on the things that I know need to happen. I want to have a system in place so that my brain power can be used for the things that do need to be flexible and do need to be a little bit more creative.
Hey there, and welcome to the Event Crushed podcast. Each week, we'll be chatting about all things wedding industry, entrepreneurship, and how to crush it in life and business. I'm so glad you're here. Now, let's dive into this week's episode. Hey there, friends. It's Becky, and welcome back to the Event Crushed podcast. This is episode 55, and we are just going to jump right in with today's guest. On the show today, I have Danielle Pasternak, owner of DPNAK Events. Danielle started planning weddings professionally in 2009 and has built a reputation for being calm, deeply organized, and refreshingly grounded in an industry that's often fast-paced and high pressure. Based in the Philadelphia area, she works closely with couples to create intentional, well-executed celebrations while also fostering strong relationships with the vendors who help bring those weddings to life. She's especially passionate about encouraging more compassion in the wedding industry, and she's a big believer that thoughtful systems and empathy can absolutely coexist. Danielle also co-hosted the Put a Ring on It podcast, a show for engaged couples navigating wedding planning with over 500,000 downloads, and continues to share helpful tips and insights over on her Instagram, DPNAK, and her website at dpnak.com, which of course will be down below in the show notes. This was such a fun conversation, and I loved combining these two topics of empathy and compassion in the wedding industry with structure and organization and systems. And I think you're going to love it. So we're just going to jump right in and let's welcome Danielle to the show. Hello, Danielle. Welcome to the show. I am so excited to have you here today.
Thanks, Becky. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I feel like the topics that we're touching on are super relevant and going to be super helpful. And they're also things I haven't discussed in detail on the show yet. So I think it's going to be a great conversation. And before we dive into all of that, I would love it if you could just share a bit about yourself and your background in the wedding industry and what you are doing today.
Yeah. So overall, I like to describe myself as a planner that focuses more on logistics versus the design side of things. I love a good spreadsheet. I love a good, organized system. And ultimately, I love helping couples kind of navigate their planning process in a way that doesn't feel like they're losing their marbles through most of it. And yeah, I mean, it's something that I started back in 2009. I say I was like a little baby planner in the world because I was so green and innocent and ignorant to so many things. And also weddings were just so much different back in that time. It was pre-Instagram, Becky. So it was wild times is what it was. So, but yeah, it was one of those things where I was able to just grow and tweak and adjust and really find what felt good to me and what felt like the right kind of couples that I wanted to serve and work with. And I've made about 1 billion plus mistakes along the way. So I certainly know that everything that I'm about to share is far from anything that I've not done before. I am just as much to blame on a lot of this stuff as anybody, but it's, I just love talking about this type of thing. And I'm excited that I get to talk to you.
Yay. Me too. Yeah. It's crazy to think back all those years ago. I mean, I didn't start my business in 2009, but I did get married in 2009, and it was pre-Pinterest, Instagram. It was the MySpace days. And I think the first place that I put my wedding photos were Facebook and MySpace. And so it is crazy to think about. But yeah, even I started my business in 2012. And that's when like Instagram was new and it was like, the filters and all the things. And so always funny to think back on those times. And I have also made a million mistakes in my business, but that's like how we learn and grow and get to where we are today. And yeah, so I'm super excited to get into this. So when we were kind of talking about topic ideas and, what we could chat about, because we actually had a mutual friend, Ashley, that connected us. She was like, hey, I just feel like you guys should know each other. And so she did a little email intro that led us to today, which is so fun. So in like the talking about topics, you had mentioned being passionate about like organization and systems in your business and like helping others with that. But then also this idea of empathy in the wedding industry and working with couples and working with other wedding pros. And so I was like, I just want to do all of that. So we're kind of touching on both of these topics and combining them a little bit. So where I want to start with this is kind of just the idea that like wedding planning as a career, and we're not just talking to wedding planners here. We're also, we have others in the industry that listen to this podcast. So there's photographers, there's florists, there's caterers. So I do want to make it kind of applicable to everybody, but like you and I, we're planners. So we're coming at it from that vantage point. But wedding planning and anyone working in the wedding industry, like this job just requires a high level of organization, balancing multiple clients at a time and trying to run a business that is organized, essentially.
Yeah.
But as we all know, unexpected challenges come up, especially in the world of weddings, I feel like. So how do you balance the need for strong systems in our businesses with also like the flexibility and patience that is needed to handle last minute changes, which also arise quite often?
Yeah. Well, let me start by saying I think that a lot of folks that are in the wedding industry in particular tend to probably skew more creative than I do. I definitely skew more on the I'm more of a list person than anything else. So it makes total sense to me that sometimes some of the wonderfully, incredibly talented people in the wedding industry who are so creative and so good at all these wonderful things that they do, sometimes organization and some of the like admin behind the scenes stuff is the piece of it that they're kind of pulling their hair out a little bit more with. And that's totally fine and super understandable in my book. I think that we all can kind of learn from each other and take these little things and take these little bits, because at the end of the day, you're very right. We are balancing a lot of different clients, a lot of different details, and we're in this really unique space where our clients are very rarely repeat clients, where we just know, oh, this is that client that needs, that. And every year we do kind of the same general service or product for that client. These are often new personalities and new people, new dynamics that we're always having to navigate and find our way through it in a way that we're still showcasing our own work. Well, it is such a minefield, and it's the best thing in the entire world. And like this high wire act that isn't super easy. So what I found is that the more organized and structured I am on the back end, the more I'm able to serve my clients well and work with the different, categories of vendors that I work with in a way that works well for them, because I don't want to have to wake up every day and think, what do I need to do? I don't want to spend more brain power on the things that I know need to happen. I want to have a system in place so that my brain power can be used for the things that do need to be flexible and do need to be a little bit more creative, or that have to be a little bit more spontaneous, or that we have to wait a little bit longer on. I always say I'm a person that's allergic to procrastination. So I tend to be very early. I'm a very early bird in the process of like gathering information and doing all of that. That doesn't always work for everybody, but I just want to approach it from a place of earning the trust from my couples and knowing that at the end of the day, that they know that I've got my poop in a group, as a friend likes to say, and that if something does start to go sideways, we're able to figure it out because we have the headspace and the brain space and the mental capacity to do so, because all the other things are hopefully as neatly organized as possible in my little list.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Yeah, it's so important to earn the trust of our couples, like you said. I mean, I think that's like one of the worst things we can do is when we are not delivering on our promises. And like usually that is because of a lack of organization. Like it's because we have fallen behind and we're not on top of our stuff. And that's obviously not what we want to be doing.
Right. And that's human, right? Like sometimes life events just happen and they need to take precedent over some other things that we're dealing with, especially non-urgent matters, right? Because I know for couples, sometimes it can feel like almost everything feels urgent to them because this is their day and it's really important. And it's hard to understand sometimes that even though like me as a couple, even though my wedding's 9 months away, I really need this answer right now. True. And sometimes we just have to deal with some more personal matters. But on the whole, it's easier to step away and deal with personal matters when you know that the like ship and all the pieces, the moving pieces of it are still rowing in a nice sort of pattern so that you do have the space to kind of step away and breathe when you need to. But it's certainly human and very, very fair. I think we as planners tend to see it more, or at least I'll speak for myself. I see it more when it's like consistently a same vendor over and over again, where you're like, okay, yes, I want to offer grace. And this has happened enough times now that it's like, oh, it's just not a great experience for the couple or for the client. And at the end of the day, that's what we all want to give is just a great experience for them.
Definitely. Yes. And that, I feel like that's the perfect segue into my next question, which is kind of dealing with those situations where maybe the communication isn't so great with a vendor. Like maybe they are taking a long time to get back, or we're trying to, get some information for our couple and we're just having some communication issues. And I feel like the way that you responded to that last question about like, we're all human and like you're already showing like this empathetic side and having grace and compassion. But how do we balance that when like we have deadlines and we need to get this information to our couples, but if we're dealing with a situation where it is time sensitive, how do you remain compassionate and give grace even when, juggling multiple clients and dealing with tight timeframes and all of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, right? Like we as planners, I feel like I spend a lot of my time in front of a computer. Like a big part of my job is communication. So for me, my main method of communication is emailing. So that's where I live a lot, is in my inbox. But for my florist friends, for example, or baker friends, what they do best is not involve sitting. I mean, some of them are great in front of a computer too, but like they're playing with beautiful plants and flowers. And you cannot certainly be like creating this beautiful bouquet or centerpiece and also checking email at the same time. So that requires a lot of brain power switching, right? So I very much come to the table and understand that, hey, you don't live in your inbox anywhere near as much as I do, nor probably should you. No one probably should. But at the end of the day, we also still need to make sure that we get some of these answers figured out for the client. So anytime that I send an email, if it's something that requires an answer from that person, I try to give them enough time where it feels like, okay, sometimes a vendor doesn't work on certain days. Like maybe Mondays and Tuesdays are their weekend because they've busted their tail all weekend long. So, okay, definitely give grace Mondays and Tuesdays. Or maybe we're in the absolute thick of the busiest time of year with either weddings happening or engagements and they're trying to get out proposals. So I try to balance it and be understanding. And I also want to make sure that we don't necessarily get that question too far buried in their inbox, because then that's also hard sometimes. So I do what I call, I tell my clients, I'm going to get politely annoying and just nudge them a little bit. And I try not to do it from a place of shame or anger or anything like that. Just a quick, like, I know you're super busy, following up on this email when you have a chance, just to kind of bring it at the top of the thing. If I have a close enough relationship with them where I have their like cell phone, I try to like shoot a quick text just to be like, hey, I don't want to bug you again. Do you have an ETA on when you can get back to me, just so that I can so that you, at the end of the day, I just want them to look good for the client, right? Like has very little to do with me. I'm just trying to facilitate getting answers. And the sooner that they're able to get those answers or information, whatever it is, to the client, the better it looks for them. So I'm just trying to help them in a way that serves them well, makes them look like total rock stars in the client's eyes. And then again, it's just about building the trust in knowing that I'm not here to throw them under the bus or try and make them look bad. And also they're showing up in a way that's like, look at all these wonderful answers that I've got for you. So that's kind of where I try to come from with it. But it's hard because I think 99% of the people are operating from a place of really genuinely doing their best, right? Some days, weeks, hours are harder than others. And it's just kind of what it is. Our roles are very cyclical in seasons that we have. And just when you think like, this is going to be a few weeks where I can maybe breathe a little bit, a whole new project kind of comes to light and you're like, ooh, fun, a whole new project. And then you forget to do the rest and recovery thing. So it's all fair and it's all well. And there is also maybe that 1%, it's genuinely probably less than 1%, that just maybe shouldn't be in this industry because they're not here to maybe serve the client well and show up and do a really good job. But honestly, I operate from a place mostly that people are just really trying to do their best. Mm-hmm. And what can we do together to help that? Because there are certainly days too where I show up and I'm not on my game either, whether that's an email that I've written and was far too short or what, like we've all been there. And I think the industry as a whole, we serve everybody better if we're supporting one another, to the best of our abilities versus not.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think you're so right. And it's like, it's just about assuming the best in other people and that we all want the best for our couples, like you were saying. But I think if we come at it from this place of like assuming that people are just off doing their own thing and that your emails aren't important to them or, they have other clients that are more of a priority. But if we can just approach it knowing that like we're all working super hard and doing our best for our couples and our clients and trying to balance it all. So if we can just approach it from that place, I think it changes things a lot, just that perspective. And like you said, we all have days where like we're not on our A game and that's totally normal.
But like, how many times have you had a vendor where like, it just feels like a little bit of a struggle bus via email and getting answers. And then you meet them in person and you're like, you are lovely. Like I was coming into this meeting or this day with totally different expectations. And you just, I think are crud at email and like, but you're so good at all these other things. So that's fantastic. Right. And now I know this going forward. So sometimes you also have to leave space for people to like surprise you, though it's hard sometimes to like leave that judgment at the door. But as Ted Lasso says, be curious, not judgmental. And that's just what it is.
Yes. Yeah. No, I love that idea though, like leaving space for people to surprise you. Cause that has happened to me multiple times where like via email, it's like, it's kind of like just very minimal, like brief. And then you meet them in person and they're like super bubbly and like fun. Like, oh my gosh. Like, it's like, I was not.
Who writes your emails?
Right. Yes. So that's always a nice surprise. Yeah. Some people just aren't emailers. I mean,
sure. Fair. I'm not a talk on the phone person if I can avoid it. So
me neither. Yeah. Which is kind of funny with podcasting because that's like basically what we're doing here, but it's different. Yeah. All right. Moving on to my next question for you. I want to get into systems a bit. So do you have any ideas for how wedding pros can build better systems that not only help them stay organized, but also just help with like building those stronger relationships with vendors as well?
Yeah. Well, it's tough because everybody runs their business so differently, but to give like a high level answer about it, I feel like every business has certain operations and things that they do on a regular basis that if they took a moment to kind of write it all down and not necessarily automate the thing itself, but automate a way to like remind them to do the thing. Like, I don't want to have to wake up every day and wonder, like, do I have to pay taxes today? Is something due? Do I need to do this thing? As much as I can put into a to-do list that takes care of all that stuff for me and knows what dates need to happen, the better for my brain. And the more space I have to like make the other 7 million decisions that we have to make as humans every single day, like what to have for lunch. Oh my goodness, why is that the hardest decision in the whole wide world? So that to me is a really important part of kind of figuring it out. Because once you have that base foundation in place, then you're able to start seeing like, oh, this isn't actually working for me, or this isn't working well for my clients, or maybe there's a way that this can be a little bit better, or we can be a little bit more proactive. Because if you're, a vendor where you need a bit of information and you're reaching out for it and you're just not getting that information in time, that means you're not reaching out soon enough to get that information, right? So you need to back it up and start getting out there a little bit sooner with it. But if you have to, again, wake up every day and think about that, and I work with maybe 15 to 18 clients a year. So I have a much different amount of clients that I'm working with compared to some other categories, right? So I can't imagine having to do that on an, times 2, 3, 4 plus basis every single year. That would, I would be just absolutely exhausted and not able to do what I do. So that's, to me, how I like to look at it, is kind of creating a way to automate those tasks so that you don't have to think about it, and not necessarily the task itself, but just knowing when to do the task. To me, that's a really big part of it. And I found that for me, I try to set up my days like every week when I can, that certain days are meant for certain days. Like I try to take care of social media stuff on Mondays. I try to do all my, I call it my CEO admin task stuff on Fridays. I like to do things every week so that I'm not kind of I don't want a task to become so daunting that it's going to take me hours and hours to do. If I can spend 10 minutes, balancing a checkbook every week, I will take that any day over having to sit down for an hour and do it for an entire month. So I just break it down every single week to the point where I know that if for some reason I can't get to it that week, it's fine. It'll happen next week and it'll be just perfectly fine and A-okay. That to me is kind of how I maintain a little bit of like my own inner peace and make sure that my brain is happy, because I never want to be at a meeting being like, oh crud, I really need to, pay that bill, or I really need to do that thing, or I really need to send that email. Like I want so much of my life and business life to be at peace and be calm, because anytime I've come from a place that wasn't that, I've not shown up in the best way for my clients, my team, the vendors that I've been working with, the venue I'm working at. And that's not what I want to do. I love what I do. And I don't want that to be the reputation that I would have just because I'm like dealing with some stress ball of God knows what. So
yeah. Oh my gosh, there's a lot to be said about like having a business that brings peace to your life and not like chaos. Cause I think that's what a lot of people envision of like running a business is like, it's crazy, and but it doesn't have to be that way. It is
also crazy. It is, but it's like, it's hard because, as small business owners, which I think many people in the wedding industry are, we're not just wearing so many hats. We're kind of wearing all the hats. We're kind of the marketing team, the HR department. We're running payroll. We're figuring out our social media plan, trying to learn what the latest Instagram algorithm or TikTok thing is. There are so many hats, and I think there's some that we wear better than others, and it's really easy to put the ones that we don't wear so well, the ones that don't look so good on us. It's really easy to be like, just back burner that and like, let's not. So if you can find a way to, hack it or gamify it so that you can kind of sneak it in with all those other things that you do really well, then it just becomes a little less daunting to put on that hat and do that thing. But you really need to kind of take a bit of time with your business and with what it is to look at what makes up all of the things that kind of need to happen. And it comes in time, right? Like, I don't think it's possible to sit down and just know all the things. It comes in time. It's like going on vacation and packing your clothes, right? With each vacation you take, you go, next time we're going to pack the sunscreen this way, or next time I'm going to make sure I put the Band-Aids in this bag instead of that one so that I have them more handy. You learn and you add to it and you build upon it, and I'd say you perfect it, but let's be real, we're never really hitting a point of being perfect, but you know what I mean? Like, you tweak it, and that's, for me, that's the fun of it. But I know that not everybody gets quite so tickled about to-do lists as I do.
Well, I definitely do. So I'm with you on that. That's what I love about being an entrepreneur is we're always evolving and like always bettering ourselves and our businesses. And like every wedding that we do, there's always something to take away. Like no matter how many weddings I've done, no matter how many years I've been doing this, like I've come away from every experience with something that I learned that I can take that and use that for next time to give an even better experience. So I just think that's so cool that we get to constantly be learning and growing.
That's something I put into my process a few years ago, is after every wedding, I would sit down and write what went well, what didn't go well, what would I change for next time? And that has helped me just reflect, right? Because I wanted to do it from a place of not beating myself up for something. I wanted to do it from a place of like growing forward and also acknowledging like, oh, this could have been better if this. And to me, the act of just kind of writing it down helped me so much. So it became part of my process after every wedding, my checklist of things that need to happen, that became part of it. And I I like it because I can also then look back on notes and be like, right, this was the venue where when it rains, I need to make sure I have this really handy because it's going to be a big problem otherwise. So love that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we started doing that a couple of years ago too. And I kind of was like, why did I wait so long to do this? Because it's so helpful. But at least we're doing it.
But can you imagine if you did it on the first wedding you did, what I changed for next time? Absolutely everything. And oh my God, why do my feet hurt so much?
Right. So as a planner, I would love to hear like any specifics of go-to tools or systems that you have used in your business to run your company. I just love to hear anything that you would recommend.
Yes, I am a software junkie. I love bouncing around and like finding new tools that exist out there. I tend to go back to the things that I really love and speak to me in how my brain works. But there's so many things out there that I think are so useful depending on how everybody's brain works. I obviously have a portal that my clients use, and that's a little bit more specific to them. But on the back end, I am a big fan of Todoist, which is my main hub for all things that need to happen. It is the best that I found for how I need to work. It is quick to enter things. It's smart in how it works. I could say, throw dinner in the crock pot on Wednesday and it just knows what it needs to do. And that makes me so happy. So that has been something that I even tried other things because the new shiny thing comes and you're like, okay, cool. And I've tried a bunch of different ones and then I kept finding myself coming back to it. So at this point, I'm pretty sure I'm a user for life at this point. And it's like, I think at most it's like $30 a year. It's not even this like massive. I would pay them probably $500 a year because they're just fantastic in what they do and how they do it. And then the other one, which is I'm late to the boat for sure, but I just kind of got onto it the past 2 years or so is Notion. Notion I've been really using to kind of organize more like database type thoughts. Like I have an entire database in there now of all the vendors and I can keep track of all the notes. Notion is where I keep track of all that information after a wedding where I say like what went well, what didn't go well. That is my like hub for all that stuff. It is not an easy tool to use initially, but once you get the hang of it and put in a little bit of like elbow grease and play around with it, it's really helped me a lot in kind of giving me a central location to have stuff. Because in the past, I would have it in a few different areas. And sometimes it would be on like Google Drive. Sometimes it'd be in a doc or a spreadsheet. And I've kind of been able to keep everything in one spot there. And you can cross-reference stuff in such a great way that it makes it quick and easy for how my brain works. I mean, there's several others that I probably use regularly, but those are my two, like, I will shout them from the rooftops on how much I adore and love them both.
Cool. Well, I always love hearing about what everyone's using.
Right. Me too.
So I've never tried Todoist. Is it like at all similar to Asana? Because that's what I use for like task management and all of that. Is it like kind of the same vibe?
Sort of. It depends on whether you have a team. I am a person of one. I obviously have a team that helps me on wedding days, but in working in my to-do list, it is me and only me in there. So that is what works well for me. I've tried Asana. I've tried ClickUp. Gosh, did I really want to love ClickUp? I really, really wanted to love ClickUp. I thought it was so good, but they ended up having too many features that it felt like I couldn't move quickly enough through it. And the more I played with it, the more I realized what I just wasn't using and didn't need to use. So that's when I just kind of ended up going back to Todoist, but it's similar, but really different. So if you're working with other people, I can't speak to how Todoist works with that. It's certainly possible, but I don't know if it would be better than something like Asana. I liked Asana too. Asana's the one that has like the unicorn every now and then, that like flies across your screen, right? Yeah.
It's like a little rainbow. Yeah.
Yep.
It makes me so happy.
Yep. I totally hear you. So, but if it works for you, right? Like if it feels good, then that's the system you should use is the one that you're going to use. Because if you spend so much time setting something up and it's a struggle bus to get in there and actually do something with it, that's not a good system. Like that's not what it should be. It should be, I mean, maybe it's not the like most exciting thing, but it shouldn't be giving you a bellyache or a headache every time you have to go in there. So
yeah, absolutely. And I keep hearing people talk about Notion. I did sign up a while ago and I got in there. I was using it more for like personal stuff. Like I was trying to use it for like meal planning and things like that. And I never even tried it for anything like wedding related, but I don't know. I didn't give it enough time. I was a little overwhelmed. I was like, I don't really understand, but like people keep mentioning it and they're raving about it. So I'm like, I'm sure it's amazing.
I did the same thing. I poked in there, someone mentioned it, or I heard it somewhere, and I was like, what is this about? And I was like, I don't know if I have a need for this. And then it was over Christmas break, not this past year. I think it was the year before that I just had like time to play and do this like little bit of stuff because, it's the time where like we're all full of cheese and cookies. Nobody knows what day of the week it is. And so like people are kind of quiet. Everybody's doing their own thing. You don't feel like you need to like, nothing's urgent in that week. So I was like, let me see. And it started with, I think I wanted to keep track of our family, our big escape room people. We've done a good amount of escape rooms. And I was like, I want to keep track of it in a way so we know which ones we have and haven't done.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we'd find one and be like, wait, did we do that already? And I just had a note on my phone. So I put it all in there and then it just snowballed in like, oh, it can do this. And now I meal plan in there. And yeah, I keep track of all the things. But the running joke now is like that whatever it is, Danielle's got a database for it somewhere. So it's absolutely true.
Yes, that's awesome. And I think it's important to recognize, just like you said, there is no one size fits all system or solution. Like you really have to just play around with things and find what's right for you. And it probably is going to take a while to like find that perfect solution for you. And if you do, like, it's so hard when you do spend a lot of time investing into something or money too, and you're like, oh, like I have to make it work because I spent all this money and this time, so I have to make it work. But sometimes ultimately, like you just come to the conclusion that it isn't the best solution. And it's like, okay to switch it up. And yeah, I've been going through that personally. So that's why I'm like, just wanted to touch on that. And I won't get into specifics, but I was using CRM for a very long time. And then I wanted to see if the grass was greener in this other situation. So I tried it for like a year and a half, really liked it, but ultimately I ended up switching back just because I didn't know. Like, it's okay to try different things. And so, yeah.
Well, the nice thing too with what we do, or at least I found, I am able to kind of experiment because I'm often not working with that same client for, 3, 4, or 5 years. I mean, outside of the COVID era where we were working with them for quite a while. But like you were able to kind of try different things and see how it feels and get feedback from them. There's certainly, there's certain things that work great for some people and not for others, but you don't really know until you try and really get your hands in there and get dirty with it. So
definitely. Oh, okay. This is already so good. I have a few more questions. I'm hoping that we can get through here. So I'm going to try to like fire them off. We'll see. Okay. So my next question, I wanted to get a little bit into like burnout and time management, because that's something I think as wedding pros, a lot of us deal with when we are wanting to like be available for our clients, especially as planners, like we want to be there for our couples, especially as their wedding gets closer and all the things. So I don't know. How do you keep those boundaries? Like, one big question that I think comes up a lot is like, oh, do you text your clients or don't you text your clients? So I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are and all that.
Yeah, again, everybody has what works for them. I certainly have a great planner friend and she lives for texting with her clients. It's her like main form of communication with them, and it works well for her clients. For me, I wouldn't be able to do that because there's not enough of a way to organize those conversations for me. I feel like it's too easy for things to get buried, and I don't want to rely too much on my brain, especially as I get older. I don't want to rely too much on it to like just remember that stuff. I need a different system that works for me. That's not to say as I don't text my clients, but I try and set the expectation right from the beginning as we are talking that the best way to reach me is always via email. And I always say, like, of course, if something urgent comes up, shoot me a text. You have my number for that. But at the end of the day, email is going to be best. And that's where I try to keep things. If they do send a text and I see it starting to skew that way, I'll say, hey, this is something that I want to move to email so that I can make sure we don't miss any of these details. And 9 times out of 10, they're understanding. Sometimes they're just by their phone, and that's a quick way that they can send me something. And that's fair. That's super great. And I'm happy they're communicating with me with stuff. I'd rather that than be left in the dark. But, and I'll for sure send a happy birthday text to them, or anything like that. Also, I tend to operate from the place of like the week of, however they feel they need to get in touch with me, I'm fine with. I probably won't answer my phone at 2 a.m, mainly because it's on silent and I won't hear it. But I can understand that they're in a much different headspace that final week. And I respect that, like, they no longer feel like it can wait for me to get back to them on an email, even though I'm super quick on email. I get why they want to text then. Those rules for me go out the window the week of their wedding. And I honestly have yet to have a client that's really abused that in any sort of way. And if I had, I clearly blocked them out. It was just too traumatic, and that experience has left me. So I'm okay with that. But you have to set that expectation. And then you also have to respect it yourself, right? I don't think it's fair to say, don't text me, but then anytime you need an answer from them, you're texting them, right? Because then it sets the wrong precedent for what works best and what we should be doing here. So you kind of have to mirror what it is that you want from them and understand that sometimes other things need to happen. Like sometimes I do actually need to hop on a phone call to talk through the thing. That's easier for them to talk through over the phone versus trying to type it all out in an email. Yeah, that's super fair. But I also have them outside of the week of their wedding. I also have my clients schedule time to call me because I say, like, I don't want you to call me when I'm like either in a meeting with somebody else or doing something where I can't be in front of all of your information and make sure I'm giving you an answer that's actually helpful, because I'm saying, well, wait, what time is your ceremony at? Like, I want to make sure I'm, present and focused for them. So I tell them, like, if you can schedule, even if it's just a quick call, just schedule it. And then I'll make sure that we're good to go. And of course, if it's urgent, then that's fine. But that's, to me, I try anytime, I'm not available for something. I think initially when I was younger, it was harder for me. I felt guilty if I wasn't available 24/7 for like a meeting or for whatever it was. And now I just recognize that I try to make myself reasonably available, with some days where I can work later in the night and other days where I don't work as late into the night. And I've just found that, like, just kind of being clear about it and saying, like, I'm not available for that time, but here's the times I am. Honestly, it goes over just fine. You know what I mean? Like, it's sometimes I think people will feel like, oh my gosh, but they this is what they want and I can't do it. And what am I supposed to say? And it's just like, say no and then give them another option. And that's okay. Like, just the same as they would for you, and say like, oh no, that doesn't work for me because of whatever reason. You don't owe me a reason, I feel like. So that's my take on it. But
yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's all about like setting those expectations from the beginning, so they're not surprised halfway through, like, oh, wait, I can't, like, you don't want me to text you. Or it's like, like you set those, whatever boundaries you have, whether you are good with texting or not, or how, if you're fine with those phone calls. Or like for me, I'm definitely like, I prefer everything via email as well, because then I have like a record and I can reference back to things, which is really important to me. And things get lost in text. And even on the phone, it's like, things, you know what I mean? So I like to have a record.
I know. It just helps to see it all written down too, because when you start second guessing, like, did they say 10 or did they say 11? Like, it's just nice to have a way to kind of properly check yourself.
I totally agree. And it's definitely is something that, like, the more you go on in your business, I think you just feel a little more comfortable and okay with like sticking with those boundaries. I feel like in the beginning, you're like, you'll kind of like fudge the lines and go out of your way a bit more. But when you've been doing it for a while, like, you just feel a little more confident and comfortable. And I've had some just a lot of my couples right now are not available during the day to me. And I don't normally do evening calls, but I've kind of had to like make some exceptions. And it's like, I'm happy to do that. And I need to meet with their, full planning couples. And so we do like a Zoom meeting every month. And so need to make it happen. But there was one where it was like, they asked me about a few different times and I was like, I just wasn't willing to, because, we have family stuff and it's like, I just can't. So I offered another few dates and eventually we found something. So
right.
It's just how it goes.
And that's what it is. I always feel like if I know the things that I'm comfortable being flexible on, and I feel like if I can really offer as much flexibility in those areas, then in the areas where I can't, I as a human and as a person that I'm, that they're contracted with, I feel good about that. And I think if a client, I also feel like I have a good enough relationship with any of my clients that if that didn't feel good to them, that they would also voice it in any certain terms. You know what I mean? To make sure that I was, meeting them where they're at with all of that. But I feel you. I mean, I'm on the East Coast, so it is not uncommon that a lot of our clients are not based exactly where I am in the Philly area. A lot of times people are traveling in, whether they went to school here or grew up here or just really love, the wonderfulness that is Philly. So it's not uncommon for me to have a client that's based on the West Coast. And it's so hard sometimes because even if we start the meeting at 5 o'clock their time, time. That's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, I guess this time. And I'm a girl that goes to bed at 8 p.m. So it's like, but I know that when I go into it with them, like, I know that that's going to have to be something where, like, for them, I'm going to adjust a little bit and make sure that I'm available a little bit later and, do something to keep myself awake and alert for them, but it's all good. And then they also appreciate that flexibility too, that I can't do that all the time either. So yeah, just communicating and understanding everybody's position with it. I get it.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, I can relate. I'm very early to bed. And so we also have clients that live in different time zones. And so, you got to navigate that, but
yeah. Oh, I imagine, you deal with it on the opposite end where it's like wanting to be really early morning for you.
Which is usually fine because I'm up pretty darn early. So it works.
Yeah. I saw what time you emailed me this morning. I did the math and I was like, oh, she's up early.
Yep. Okay. So this next question is a little bit like, I don't know, we're going to go a little bit deeper, but I'm just so curious to hear your thoughts on this because you've mentioned like wanting to bring more patience and compassion and empathy into the wedding industry. And so I'm just curious if you have any, like, what shifts do you think need to happen in order for that to become the norm? And how can we as planners play a role in that change?
Yeah. I think sometimes we as wedding vendors forget that we are one part of the day and that there are also many other parts that are coming together to make this thing happen, all of which have been asked to do so by the couple in some way, shape, or form. So when there's a situation where there's butting of heads or people don't want to really share too much, it always confuses me because it's like, we're all here to do the same thing. And we're all here because this wonderful couple or client asked us to be here. And if we work together, the client feels better about it. Anytime that it's ever been a situation where it's just been awkward, like that awkwardness sits far more with the client than I certainly want them to. You know what I mean? And that's not good. We don't want them thinking that sort of thing. But I think it's really hard sometimes. I think people feel threatened by another person's role or feel like, well, why do I need to tell you this thing? And it's like, well, because I need to make sure that, sometimes it's like a load in time. Like I will be there when we'll be there. Sure. But like, do you have a time frame, an idea? Because I need to make sure the loading dock is clear for you. And if you show up and it's not, then I'm pretty sure you're going to be pretty mad at me if it's not. And I don't want that. I don't want that for you. I want you to have a smooth load in. And I think it's easy to forget sometimes that we are all in this together and we are all working hard to make sure that the day goes well. I don't know a single vendor that wakes up on a wedding day and goes, oh, I just really hope that it goes sideways today. I just really hope that I bomb, or that like so-and-so doesn't do their job. Like we're all just really trying to show up and do our best work. And I think sometimes our own egos, gosh, I'm certainly to blame for this too. Sometimes our own egos get in the way with it and we forget that piece of it in an effort to kind of prove our worth or show our value. Or, maybe it's our own insecurity that we're kind of working through and dealing with, that whatever question it was triggered that unintentionally. And now we kind of have to work through it. So I think if we all just remember that we're all there to do this thing, and jeepers, there's probably not many other jobs on this planet that are as fun as what we get to do. Like we get to be part of such massive days in our clients' lives. We get to make incredible moments happen and give the memories that, that they hopefully look back on and just feel so darn good about. We get to be there we get a front row seat, a lot of us, for a lot of that stuff. That's an honor and a privilege. And, it's at the end of the day, it's just, that's what it's all about. That's where the magic lives. And it makes such a difference when you're working with folks that understand that too. And, not to say as it's a perfect day, but at the end of the day, when you just feel so excited and good about it all, like not much really tops that feeling. And there's not much worse feeling when you're like, oh my gosh, I could kill this DJ by the end of the night. He's going to be the death of me or whatever it is. Like, there's few things that kind of get under your skin more than somebody who's just not willing to be a team player and work with you and make good things happen. So, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. My last week's episode was all about, it was like an open letter to wedding pros. And it was like just meant to be an encouragement to like remind everyone like why we do what we do. Because we can get so sucked into like just the hustle culture of running a business and more weddings, more bookings. And it's like just kind of to ground us and like, why did we get started in this industry in the first place? Like, what is it that draws us back year after year and, makes us wake up in the morning? And I shared like some stories from my own personal experience, of a bride who like emailed me years after her wedding and her dad ended up getting sick and passing away. And she was just so grateful that, like I had planned this beautiful wedding for her because it was like her last trip with her dad. And like, she was so grateful her dad got to walk her down the aisle. And like, it was just so sweet. And I think if we can just remind ourselves of it's so much bigger. Do you know what I mean? Like the memories that we're creating for couples are going to live on in their lives, potentially forever, in their families' lives, in their loved ones' lives. And it's so much more than just this day that we get so hung up on. Like these memories are so important and so impactful. So
it's for sure. It's hard not to get desensitized to some of it because when you see it enough times, like there's certain parts of it that for sure can lose the magic for you. So those reminders are so special and so needed sometimes. So that was awesome that you did that.
No, thanks. Well, I think this is a great place to leave it, just kind of on this encouraging note. But this has been awesome, Danielle. I loved everything that you shared. And I feel like there's so much more that we could get into. So maybe you can come back sometime and we can talk even more. But for the time being, where can listeners find you and connect with you and learn more about what you do?
Well, obviously, don't call me. Hopefully, I've made that clear. Oh my gosh. Yes, I would absolutely love to come back and talk about more things. But in the meantime, the best places to find me are on Instagram. I really can't do too many other social media things. I'm lucky I'm on Instagram, but I'm basically at DPNAK, DPNAK, just about everywhere. And Instagram is sort of the main space. But luckily, I've had a name that I've been able to shorten from Danielle Pasternak down to DPNAK, and it has stuck with me. So it also means that I get really short usernames on all the platforms, which is fun.
Awesome. Well, I will link all of that in the show notes. And thank you again for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Becky. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Event Crushed podcast. I hope you found value in this episode, and if you did, please consider sharing it with a wedding industry friend. We also hope you'll consider leaving a rating or review for the show to help other listeners find it. This podcast is edited and produced by Ace Sound Design. If you're looking to elevate your audio experience, their info can be found in the show description. As always, thank you for listening, and please connect with us on Instagram if you haven't already. Now, get out there and crush it.